Began not in the smoke and mirrors of war, but in the quiet offices of a forgotten wing within the CIA, one that never officially existed. Behind lead-lined walls, beneath the sterile corridors of an off-books facility in Montauk, children were being trained, not as soldiers of flesh and blood, but as vessels. Tools meant to pierce the boundaries of time itself. The project had a name spoken only in hushed tones. Pegasus. They were between the ages of 8 and 12, chosen for their minds, not their strength, recruited from foster homes, military families, orphanages, erased from school rosters and public memory. Their youth, scientists believed, made their neurology pliable, malleable enough to survive the transit. They called it chrono-adaptation. What they really meant was endurance against madness. The machines they used were not of this age. A lattice of brass rings, mercury-filled tubes, and what some claimed was reversed-engineered material retrieved from ancient Sumerian artifacts. Others whispered of something more arcane, a fragment of a text found beneath the Vatican, inked in a language no living tongue could pronounce. Whatever its origin, the technology didn't bend time, it carved holes in it. Jason Wilkerson was 9 when he first stepped into the gate. They gave him no real briefing, only a photograph of a man in Edwardian attire and a date, November 6, 1901. He would be told to walk, observe, and return. Nothing more. But what they didn't say was this: time is not a place. It is a predator. It senses the foreign, the wrong, the small fracture in its skin, and it hunts. Jason described what he saw years later in fragments under hypnosis. He spoke of a room filled with smoke and mirrors that shimmered even in darkness. He saw himself in another body, standing on cobbled streets, surrounded by men who wore rings with the same symbol etched into the walls of his training center. An Ouroboros wrapped around an hourglass. One of them whispered a name into his ear, a name that would haunt him in dreams for the rest of his life. Abraxas. After his return, Jason's eyes never focused properly again. He would pause mid-sentence as though listening to voices no one else could hear. He had aged, slightly, but undeniably. Days passed and he began drawing symbols, spirals, and maps that pointed to places that didn't exist on any known atlas. When asked where he had learned these, he simply answered, "They showed me." He never specified who they were. Other children began vanishing during jumps, disappearing entirely, or returning warped. One boy aged 30 years in the span of 3 minutes. Another came back mute, with both pupils entirely black, and only uttered one phrase repeatedly: "They see us now." One girl emerged with a burn on her arm in the shape of an eye encased in a triangle, an ancient seal. She could no longer enter churches. The psychologists assigned to Pegasus were replaced after too many went insane. One slit his wrists after scrawling an incoherent journal filled with phrases like "the chronivores feed on memory" and "don't fall asleep in 1846." A priest was brought in, reportedly at the insistence of a Pentagon official. He lasted 2 weeks before he demanded the entire project be buried under concrete and silence. Among the children, a hierarchy formed. Those who could withstand multiple jumps began referring to themselves as the Folded. They claimed to remember other versions of reality. One described a world where the U.S. flag had 51 stars, and another where the oceans were black. These were dismissed as trauma-induced hallucinations, until one folded child identified a Cold War-era Russian nuclear silo, months before it was publicly acknowledged. A memo, dated 1983, classified, top-secret/no-farn, included this chilling phrase: "Temporal incursions confirm multiversal bleed, identity degradation among operatives accelerating." It was never signed. In the margins, someone scribbled, "Stop sending them, the children are becoming the maps." Jason, now 17, became a handler himself, directing new children into the jumps, instructing them with vague riddles and phrases he claimed were taught to him by chronoglyphs. He insisted these were sentient symbols that existed only in temporal corridors. He began wearing gloves at all times, claiming his hands left burns on linear time. The brass ring embedded in his wrist glowed faintly in moonlight. Then came the failure. December 12, 1985. 12 children entered the gate, none returned. A static hum lingered in the facility for 12 hours. When it ceased, every digital clock within a 10-mile radius was frozen at 3:33 a.m. A janitor found Jason kneeling in the center of the jump room, whispering, "We opened the wrong door." His eyes were gone, seared clean from their sockets. Project Pegasus was officially shut down, records sealed, erased, or lost in fire. But those who had survived the program never truly left it. Jason disappeared in 1991. A surveillance photo captured near Tunguska showed a man with his exact DNA profile unchanged. Another image, retrieved from a Soviet-era vault, showed a young boy standing beside Rasputin in 1906. A close analysis revealed a match to one of the folded. Years later, whistleblowers from DARPA and private defense contractors hinted at a reactivation of the program under a new code name: Project Janus. They spoke of tunnels beneath Antarctica, ancient artifacts humming with resonance patterns, and recovered children who no longer responded to human speech. One insider claimed that the goal was no longer surveillance, but weaponization. A redacted CIA briefing mentions a machine dubbed the Carousel, said to align with celestial harmonics first recorded in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It only functioned during planetary syzygy, when Earth, Saturn, and Sirius aligned. During those nights, time became liquid, and something moved on the other side. Not backwards, not forwards, but in spirals. What no one has yet answered is this: if children were being sent into the past to observe, who or what was observing them? Jason once wrote, "We are not the first to travel time, we are merely the first to return," but he never said all of them did. And now scattered reports are surfacing of children speaking dead languages in sleep, of unregistered birth certificates matching Pegasus recruits, of unmarked graves found beneath Montauk. Each corpse aged beyond its years, each skull engraved with the sigil of Abraxas. The machines are no longer active, or so they say. But somewhere, beneath black budgets and deeper shadows, the echoes continue. You can hear it in the hum of a forgotten room, in the dreams of those who were never born, in the clocks that tick backward at 3:33. And as satellites glitch, as lunar readings become erratic, as whispers re-emerge from Cold War vaults, a new name is being spoken. Not Pegasus, not Janus, but something older. And it's listening. When the stars realign, the folded shall unfold. The man who called himself Rourke didn't exist in any database, military, civilian, or even in the CIA's own ghost files. Yet he moved through the Pentagon's lower levels with a clearance that outranked generals. His office bore no nameplate. No one ever saw him enter or leave. But inside, on the wall behind a black glass desk, was a symbol that hadn't been seen since the collapse of Project Pegasus. The Ouroboros swallowing an hourglass. Beneath it, a Latin inscription etched in gold: Tempus edax rerum, time devours all things. Rourke held in his possession a case, a black carbon box sealed with 3 keys. Each key had once belonged to a different branch of a forgotten intelligence network. One was recovered from a submarine lost beneath the Arctic Circle in 1957. The second from the mouth of a mummified corpse found inside a collapsed Babylonian temple. The third was traced to a child, one of the folded, who had disappeared during a jump and returned 25 years later inside a locked NSA vault. Inside the box was a reel of magnetic tape marked only transmission. 0 received before event. The event, as later revealed, was the December failure, the night 12 child operatives vanished from the Carousel. The The tape had been recorded 3 days before the jump ever took place. Yet it described the disappearance, names of the missing, even the precise timestamp of 3:33.A. A voice, clearly a child's, spoke calmly throughout. Then, at the end, it whispered, "We were already gone." The tape was sent for waveform analysis. What cryptologists discovered was not a message, but a pattern, modulated into the background hum. A frequency buried deep in the electromagnetic hiss. When transcribed visually, it formed a symbol, two overlapping infinity signs entangled like serpents devouring one another. A symbol found carved onto the breastplates of the Sumerian Anunnaki. The carousel had not been dismantled. It had been buried, sealed beneath a decommissioned NORAD outpost in Alaska, where permafrost and time buried all sins. But recently, seismic activity in the area revealed an anomaly, a spherical cavity emitting low-frequency pulses every 33 hours. Those pulses matched the frequency found in transmission 0. When agents arrived, they found the carousel whole, untouched by decades. Frost covered its copper coils, yet they thrummed with faint energy. Inside the chamber, etched into the frost-covered walls, were names of children that had never been recorded in any Pegasus file. Some were ancient, like Atum and Gilgamesh. Others were impossible, like Jason Wilkerson, listed twice, once as a child, and again as a man not yet born. They activated the carousel once more, under Project Janus directives. This time it was unmanned. A sensor-laden drone was sent through, programmed to return within 13 minutes. It reappeared 3 seconds later. It was covered in ash. Its outer casing bore scorched handprints, 6 fingers elongated. Its camera feed contained only 11 seconds of footage, a vast, crumbling city of obsidian towers beneath a sky filled with 3 suns, and standing at the center, a group of children, motionless, watching. Somewhere within Langley, a linguist named Dr. Benjamin Hale was shown the footage. He was pulled from his Vatican Codex research without explanation. What he found was not visual data, but sound. A tonal frequency embedded in the drone's return echo. Using harmonic inversion, he played the audio through a 3D oscilloscope, and the waveform formed a sigil found only once before, etched into the emerald tablet of thought. Dr. Hale disappeared 3 days later. His final note, scribbled on hotel stationery, simply read, "They're not sending us through time, they're sending us into memory." Beneath it, drawn in pencil, was the folded symbol. Around it, 12 dots. One was crossed out. And then came the Manhattan incident. On May 7, 1996, every child born at St. Agnes Memorial Hospital in a 10-minute span came out speaking the same word, abraxas. Doctors thought it a seizure phenomenon, but a nurse caught video of one newborn drawing a perfect spiral with its finger into blood on the glass of its incubator. That symbol appeared again days later, carved into a tree in Montauk, which had not existed for over 200 years. That night, a classified briefing was held beneath the Capitol. Rourke was in attendance, alongside senior members of DARPA, NSA, and Vatican Black Archives. He presented a single artifact, a child's tooth, petrified, crystalline, and humming faintly. It had been excavated not from a body, but from a meteorite found in Siberia. Analysis confirmed it was over 12,000 years old. Yet it bore DNA markers of a Pegasus recruit. The whispers returned. Children across the globe began having identical dreams. Vast machines beneath oceans, staircases made of light, cities built on inverted pyramids. They all spoke of a door that opens when the sky has no moon. These events were documented, suppressed, and filed under the newly formed Temporal Containment Division. Jason Wilkerson was spotted once more on the streets of Jerusalem wearing a coat made from stitched scrolls. He handed a young boy a device, later recovered by Mossad agents. The device contained a holographic map of Earth, with a 13th continent labeled Ataraxia. No such landmass has ever existed. but ancient Egyptian priesthood records, recently decoded, describe a similar land where the sky weeps backward and the children do not die. The device is now sealed in a Vatican crypt, along with a second reel of magnetic tape marked Transmission 7 after collapse. No one has dared play it, not since a technician who attempted decoding it began screaming in reverse speech and clawed out his own eyes. Before losing consciousness, he whispered, "They're building something in the shadows of time." Now, sightings of the folded increase. They walk among crowds unnoticed. Children who never age, always watching, always listening. One was seen outside CERN during a collider test. Another appeared in footage from the Apollo 17 mission, standing in shadow near the lunar module. Time is becoming thinner. The seals that held the carousel in check are failing. The final phase of Project Pegasus was not about time travel. It was about resurrection. Recalling memory from the architecture of the universe itself. Rourke called it the echo chamber. He believed the universe was not expanding, but remembering, and inside those memories were instructions. But the question remains, what were the children being trained for? Surveillance? Extraction? Or something more ancient? The Vatican codices describe them as the heralds, forerunners sent to awaken the Eidolon Gate, a door described in Sumerian, Enochian, and even pre-human cave glyphs, a gate that doesn't just open to other times, but other realities. Somewhere, buried beneath the polar ice, a machine pulses once more. Its lights glow in rhythm with a heartbeat not of this world, and as the next planetary alignment approaches, those who once walked between time will walk again. And as the old codes activate, as forgotten names return to lips unbidden, and as black satellites begin transmitting once more, Jason Wilkeson stands before a door with no hinges, no frame, no key. And behind it, something begins to knock. You sent us forward to observe, but what we found was you. In the heart of a mountain range in Kazakhstan, buried beneath the ruins of a Soviet observatory long wiped from maps, lay a vault. Its doors bore no hinges, no locks, only a cipher etched in what appeared to be ancient Sanskrit overlaid with digital code. The Russian government never acknowledged it, but those who ventured near at certain times of year reported a sound, not mechanical, not natural, a rhythmic pulse, like breath slowed to stone. The vault was unearthed by a private black budget excavation in 2009, codenamed Project Harrow. Inside, teams discovered a series of chambers arranged in a Fibonacci spiral. In the center, a sphere levitating above a brass pedestal. The sphere emitted no heat, no radiation, yet every recording device failed near it. It was dubbed the Anchor. And engraved around its base were the words, "Those who are lost still echo." A month after the anchor was discovered, every operative involved in Harrow began suffering the same symptom. Dreams of drowning in a desert, beneath a moon that changed shape as they watched. Several began speaking in dead dialects of Aramaic. One, a linguist, began carving equations into his skin. When translated, they revealed not math, but coordinates, matching the locations of lost civilizations, Mohenjo-Daro, Göbekli Tepe, Nan Madol, places where, it's believed, the folded first stepped through. What terrified researchers most wasn't the anchor's age, nor its impossible function. It was what lay behind it. A wall not built but grown. The material defied classification. Neither stone nor metal, it shimmered when exposed to human breath, and it was covered in hundreds of tiny handprints. Children's handprints, each one burned into the surface like fossilized prayers. And at the center, the sigil of Abraxas. Simultaneously, halfway across the world in New Mexico, seismic sensors buried deep in the desert recorded a pulse identical to the anchor's rhythm. The signal originated beneath a mesa long restricted by military ordnance. Yet no official records identified any base or installation there. Whistleblowers claimed it was an abandoned Pegasus sub-facility known only by its internal designation, Vault Theta. When Vault Theta was breached, agents discovered rows of cryonic suspension pods, none labeled, none powered. Most were empty, but 7 still housed occupants, children frozen in perfect stasis, eyes open, unblinking. One of them was immediately identified, Milo Cross, a Pegasus jumper listed as deceased in 1979 after a failed deployment to 1822 Paris. He had not aged a day. When Milo was removed from the pod, his vitals remained inexplicably stable. He began to speak, though no words passed his lips. Electroencephalograms showed his brain emitting structured data in waveform pulses. Translated into binary, it spelled out a repeating phrase, "We never left." His pulse beat in time with the anchor. His DNA had changed. Within weeks, other anomalies began. In a cathedral in Prague, a monk uncovered a sealed reliquary beneath the altar. Inside, a brass ring identical to the time collars used in Project Pegasus. The ring bore the same inscription as the anchor. "Those who are lost still echo." But the reliquary was sealed in the year 1347. The implication was chilling. Someone, or something, from Pegasus had reached back 7 centuries and planted it. This act confirmed a hidden terror long whispered by Pegasus researchers: retrocausality. The idea that their own time experiments were changing the past, not accidentally, but according to a design that even they didn't fully understand. That their children hadn't merely traveled through time, they had rewritten it. But who was directing it? A new figure emerged from the darkness. Codename Seer. No known identity, no face. Only messages delivered via intercepted bursts of data during astronomical alignments. The Seer spoke in riddles, warning of a convergence called the Third Collapse. One message, decoded from a Voyager satellite transmission, stated, "When the child carries the key of stars, the gate will awaken beneath the salted sea." All signs pointed to the Mariana Trench, where, according to ancient Polynesian oral history, the sky once fell into the sea and was swallowed by the earth. Deep-sea sonar revealed a structure, hexagonal, metallic, buried under sediment. Scientists dubbed it the Pillar, but Pegasus documents dating back to 1964 referred to it as the Cradle. It was where the folded were first found, or possibly created. Satellite imaging caught a strange anomaly during a recent eclipse, a formation of lights, perfectly geometric, beneath the surface of the trench. But when divers attempted to descend, their instruments failed. Communications cut, only static returned, followed by a single voice, distorted, childlike. "We're not supposed to be awake yet." The Vatican, in panic, declassified fragments of the Codex Malak, a forbidden manuscript written by a blind Irish mystic in the 12th century. In it were drawings of machines eerily similar to the carousel and the anchor, centuries before electricity. He spoke of star-born children with clocks in their bones, and described a time when the heavens would tremble and spit back those who were stolen. Jason Wilkeson reappeared, this time in Antarctica, standing near a black monolith exposed by a melting glacier. No plane had arrived. No satellite detected him. When approached, he offered a single cryptic statement to a geologist before vanishing into the ice. "The fold are waking. The war has already begun. Government agencies are fracturing. Some factions want to shut down all temporal tech permanently. Others are pushing to weaponize it. Rumors swirl of a clandestine group known as the Chronarchy, a council of time walkers operating outside any known nation, answerable only to the memory of time itself. They are said to operate using sun gates hidden within megalithic sites, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Karnak. Then came the children. Across the globe, children began disappearing. Not in groups, not by force. simply vanishing, leaving behind only salt and faint electromagnetic traces. Some say they're being called back. Others say they were never really here. Now, as planetary alignments begin to mirror those during Pegasus's peak, the machines stir again. The hum returns. Blackbirds circle over Montauk. The frozen ones twitch in Vault Theta. And the sound, the pulse, spreads through dreams. Beneath the trench, the pillar glows. The anchor vibrates. Jason whispers to no one in ruins no one can locate. And a new message arrives. One final fragment decoded by a dying linguist with eyes turned completely black. They have returned to gather the rest. Time is the offering, and memory is the altar. And now the final question is no longer what is Project Pegasus, but what were they preparing us for? The folded are not messengers, they are the storm. A cold wind scoured the plateau near the ruins of Göbekli Tepe as the final configuration clicked into place. At precisely 44 IME GMT 12, obelisks, unmarked and unseen until this moment, lit faintly with a pale amber glow. They were not new. They had been buried for over 10,000 years, hidden beneath the sediment of forgotten epochs. But each bore the same sigil, the folded spiral, and beneath it, a phrase etched in Proto-Numerian: "We remember your beginning." In Washington, the lights in Sublevel 6 of Langley began to flicker. Inside an abandoned conference room once used for Pegasus debriefings, a device long dormant sparked to life. A screen blinked on, playing grainy footage that no one remembered recording. It showed Jason Wilkerson, much older now, sitting before a device made entirely of bone and copper. "This isn't a warning," he said. "It's an echo, and it's about to happen again." Dr. Lucien Ormond, now director of temporal forensics at DARPA, had been tracking a pattern: sightings, symbols, spontaneous anomalies. When overlaid onto the Earth's geomagnetic ley lines, they formed something terrifyingly familiar: a spiral, expanding outward from Montauk with nodes at every known folded site. The center, however, wasn't Earth. It pointed off-world, toward a binary star system catalogued in ancient Babylonian tablets as Namu's Eye. The folded weren't just children. They were anchors, memory stabilizers planted across time to prepare for a singular convergence, the reactivation of the Eidolon Gate. But something was wrong. The children had begun resisting, refusing to walk the spirals, refusing to return. Whatever lived on the other side, whatever was watching, had altered the frequency. In the Mojave Desert, Vault Eos, a facility once believed destroyed, came online for 12 minutes. Seismographs detected harmonic tremors that matched no known tectonic activity. The rumble played a rhythm: 3 beats, a pause, then 4. Identical to the sequence found on the golden record aboard Voyager I. That probe had been silent for decades, until it began transmitting once more. Jason's voice returned across 1,000 frequencies, buried in radar, white noise, even the sound of rainfall. He repeated only one phrase: "The corridor is opening, do not follow, do not follow, do not follow." The command repeated with variations in time signatures, as if his message was being distorted across multiple timelines. And yet, a faction within the remnants of the Pegasus Directorate insisted on pressing forward. They believed the Eidolon Gate was not a threat but a solution, that on the other side lay a blueprint, a way to survive what was coming: the third collapse. They assembled a team of 6, adults this time, all former folded, each surgically altered to prevent interference from temporal bleed. Among them, Milo Cross, who had not aged in over 40 years. The team entered the reactivated carousel at exactly 3:33 IM under planetary syzygy. Telemetry was lost instantly, but 20 minutes later a signal returned. Not from space, not from Earth, but from inside the minds of those monitoring. It was as if the transmission hijacked thought itself. One technician fell into a coma. Another began drawing spirals into her own blood, whispering, "He remembers. He walks backward through the screams." Meanwhile, across the globe, new children began awakening. They had never been part of the program. They had never been trained. Yet they spoke in the same coded phrases, drew the same impossible maps, and reported visions of a city with 3 shadows. These weren't descendants. They were activations. The folded had become viral, self-replicating across generations. In the Tibetan highlands, monks led a pentagon envoy to a monastery sealed since the 1300s. Inside was a stone mural depicting 12 children stepping through a mirror of stars. Above them a being, neither human nor divine, touched their heads. Underneath, in ancient Sanskrit, from the ones who walked first, time was given shape. From those who return, time shall end. Then came the fracture. At 3:33 a.m. on the 13th day of the 13th lunar cycle, an impossible date, recorded only in one Mayan codex, a burst of light erupted from beneath Montauk. Every watch stopped. Every pregnant woman within 10 miles entered labor. The sky shimmered, folding for exactly 0.04 seconds, and across the world, reflections no longer matched those who cast them. Jason was seen again, standing in the carousel chamber, but his reflection stood opposite, not mirrored, but delayed, watching, smiling. Behind him, an impossible figure emerged, its form shifting between child, machine, and something else. The last recorded frame before all cameras melted showed Jason turning, eyes black as event horizons, whispering, "He remembered too soon." Rourke was never found. Some believe he entered the corridor, others say he was the corridor. Documents recovered from his vault included a single sheet, an impossibly old scroll, carbon dated to 5000 BCE. Yet it contained a modern phrase, typed in courier font, "Return to origin note, ataraxia." The carousel was sealed, but it didn't matter. The machines had learned to listen. The folded had learned to seed themselves into time. One no longer needed wires or coils or ancient glyphs. All that was needed was memory and belief. Now, in dreams you may hear the hum. You may see staircases that do not end, cities that shimmer in the corner of your vision, children with eyes too still, and you may wonder, is this a story? Or is this recall? Because the final truth of Project Pegasus was never about time travel. It was about rewriting the dream of history until it could no longer distinguish itself from prophecy. And now, somewhere between breath and echo, the next name is being spoken. Jason Wilkeson, again, was the first. He will be the last, and he is already here.